Good morning. Welcome to another One Mind meditation. Our teacher for this week is Jiddu Krishnamurti. And today I have the opportunity to share, I think, what are probably my favorite quotes from him. So, right, if we're ready, let's get into today's message. The human experience is a tapestry woven with threads of both light and also shadow, joy and also sorrow, strength and also vulnerability. We often find ourselves caught in the internal struggle of reconciling these opposite forces, conditioned to label one as good and the other as bad, to cling to certainty and to avoid the discomfort of the unknown. Do you have the ability to hold both? Are you able to tell both stories? We'll ask Krishnamurti to explain. Sunmarie, very good morning. Danae, good morning. Hello, beautiful humans. Awesome having you right here. The first thought from Jiddu Krishnamurti today says, freedom from the desire for an answer is essential to understanding the problem. So often before we try to understand the problem, we want to kind of already double down on what the answer should be. And the moment we have a desperation for an answer, we're already leaning in one direction. And now it becomes impossible to really understand the problem. Krishnamurti says, the highest form of human intelligence is to observe yourself without judgment. Are you able to observe yourself and not judge anything you see? And the next thought from Krishnamurti says basically the same thing. He says, the ability to observe without evaluating is the highest form of intelligence. Now, this can seem quite confusing. Anthony, good evening. It's great seeing you, man. Hello. It took me many years to fully understand this teaching by Krishnamurti, and he was by no means the first. The same wisdom was taught through such great teachers as Lao Tzu, the Buddha, Aristotle, Jesus. So let's look at some practical examples to see if we can build an understanding by getting into the application of it. Take a look at you. See if you can form an awareness of both sides of you. Can you see the scared human who often reacts in fear? Can you also see the fearless creator who strives to act in freedom? Can you see the part of you that feels heavy and is easily negative, as well as the part of you that loves to feel light and see the positive side to everything? While you're looking at all of this, do you need to make one side wrong and one side right? A part of you good and another part of you bad? Or can you just hold both and observe both playing out, sometimes at the same time? Now here's the real question. In this moment, while I am able to hold both, who am I being in this moment if I can see both sides? If I'm able to look at both these sides of being human and not feel the need to judge, which part of me am I being? Here's something that you might not know about the ego. Ego is invested in physical survival, and as such, fear drives the ego to double down on either or kind of certainty. Something is either white or black. It can't be both. There are no shades of gray. So while I can see both sides, I'm certainly not being ego. I'm not being my small self who desperately needs some sort of certainty in order to feel like I can survive. My ability to hold both without judgment comes from my higher self, from my soul. And of course, sometimes we can't just observe and say, neither is right or wrong, both are okay. Sometimes some kind of action needs to be taken. Sometimes some kind of decision needs to be made. But which part of me do I want to give that responsibility to? The responsibility of acting, of making a decision. Which part of me do I want to give that responsibility to? Do you want that responsibility to go to the part of you that is so ready to condemn you for all your past sins? Or do you want to give the responsibility of making decisions to the part of you that can gently hold it all and then say, I can see both sides, and now here is what's best for you? Practice observing without judgment. Practice seeing both sides without choosing either, and practice this in all things. What you are practicing is seeing through the eyes of your soul, and everything you continue practicing you will become better at. Seeing through the eyes of your soul will lead you to clarity always. Craig, a very good morning. It's great to see you. Hello. So if you're ready, let's jump in. Let's slip away on today's journey. It's called The Observer, and it is simply putting this practice into a practical container. How do I get better at looking and seeing both sides without judging? You can close your eyes and let's float away together, starting with the first few big breaths. Take a deep breath in and out. Take a deep breath in and out. A deep inhale and let it go. Deep breath in and out. One more big breath in and let it all flow away. You can continue the same breathing pattern on your own time. Every slow inhale through your nose gets drawn all the way deep down into your belly. And as you fill up your belly with air, also raise yourself up. As you breathe in, stretch out your spine. Lift the top of your head toward the ceiling. And once you've reached your full height, let all of it go. As you exhale, soften. As you breathe out, soften your spine, slump down your shoulders, and drop your head. Continue your full body breathing, and as you do, feel yourself rise with every inhale, and feel yourself fall with every exhale. And while you do, let's continue our conversation about being able to see both sides, being able to hold both. particularly seeing without judgment. This might feel very counterproductive, completely putting down judgment. I certainly have struggled to understand this for a long time. How could it be practical? How could it be productive to completely let go of judgment? And I finally got it, probably through reading Krishnamurti. If I have things about myself that I want to work on, if I have things about myself that I think would be beneficial for me to change, it might feel like judgment is the tool that works. We're often convinced that judgment is the thing that makes me try to do better. Because what would motivate me to do better if I don't judge myself, right? But here is what judgment does. Right? Judgment eliminates your ability to really observe. Because as I try and observe myself, if there's a part of me that is highly critical about what I see, how difficult is it then to try and really see everything? How do I really look at myself, all of myself, the pretty and the ugly, if a part of me harshly judges this and really wants to look away? I simply can't look at all of myself while I'm also trying to look away. And that's how practical this is. While I judge myself, I can never fully see all of myself. Have you become better at putting down the judgment? Krishnamurti calls this the highest form of intelligence, the ability to fully see without judging. We'll take the last few big breaths of this phase together, slipping out of the breath holding space. Oh, sorry, not yet. Helping our bodies stretch, adjust, and settle down into as much comfort as possible for the rest of our journey. Let's take a deep breath in. As you release, drop your head all the way forward and roll out your neck muscles forward and to the left and forward and to the right. Take a deep breath in. As you release, roll your shoulders forward in big, slow circles. Take a deep breath in. As you release, roll your shoulders backwards in big circles, nice and slow. Take a deep breath in. As you release, focus on your spine. lean your upper body over to the left and lean your upper body over to the right. One more big breath in. And as you release, you can stretch or move or adjust any part of your body that still needs a bit of help settling down. Having softened our bodies into a state of presence, or at least becoming as present as we possibly can be right now, we can now turn our attention inwards and dive deep inside for the next part of our journey. With every next inhale, we'll hold our breath for a few short moments, followed by a really long, really slow exhale. If you don't have the time to sit for the whole meditation with us, then this is always a good place to stop. But if you are here for the whole journey, we'll take the next few big breaths together. Take a deep breath in and hold. As you release, make it a really long, really slow exhale. Take a deep breath in and hold. As you release, feel into your body. Feel how softness slips into your body and how softness settles in every part of your body. Take a deep breath in and hold. As you release, follow the downwards flow through your body. Feel your shoulders slowly falling. Feel your body slowly softening. And feel how you are slowly slipping deeper into you. One more big breath in. And hold. And as you release, feel yourself melting. Feel your whole body dissolving. Feel how you are slipping into a deeper level of surrender with every slow exhale. You can continue the same breathing pattern on your own time. Every slow inhale through your nose is an invitation. It invites you to turn inwards and follow this journey. So as you breathe in, feel the air flow in through your nostrils. Feel the air touch the back of your throat. Stay with your breath as it flows in through your lungs. And as you fill up the balloon inside your belly, feel yourself slip all the way in. Hold your breath, but hold it only for as long as it feels easy, followed by a really long, really slow exhale. With your next big breath, as you dive deep into you, our theme today is being the observer. Try it out right now. Can you take a step back, almost a step away from yourself? And as you take your next big breath and dive deep into you, just witness this human sitting there. And you must be able to see someone who is trying. Take your next big breath. We're putting observing without judgment to the test today. We're putting it in a very practical container. As you take your next big breath and dive deep into you, I want you to find an example of you not being at your best behavior. I want you to find an example where perhaps your action, your reaction to something or someone was perhaps not the most helpful. Perhaps it's something you feel somewhat ashamed of. Perhaps that inner critic has already given you a mouthful about your action or reaction. Can you find an example like that? A moment in which you kind of disappointed yourself? The more recent, the better. But if you can't find something recent, then yes, search back further. Try and find a clear example. Take your next big breath. Now put this to the test, put this into action, observing you in a moment where you've disappointed yourself and trying to find a place of non-judgment as you look at the situation. So recreate that situation, that experience clearly in your mind. Get as close as possible to watching the video clip of you in that moment having that experience. Can you run through it again? Take your next big breath. To make this experience as vivid as possible and remember as much of that experience as possible, could you perhaps remember what you were wearing? And it's okay if you don't. Most likely we don't. But just open yourself to that for a moment. What were you wearing in that moment where you have the experience of which you're really not proud of your reaction? Take your next big breath. Can you remember the thoughts going through your mind while you were having that experience? Perhaps just before your reaction, just before you said anything. What were the thoughts that you were thinking before you acted? Take your next big breath. And this always really shines the light on our reactions. If you can get into that space again, if you were able to ask that version of you this question about the thoughts that you were thinking just before acting, if you could ask that version of you, what is it that you're afraid will happen? Like just before you act, tell me, what is it that you're afraid will happen? And often the answer to that question is very illuminating. It clearly demonstrates why we reacted the way we did. Take your next big breath. What is it you were afraid was going to happen? And then as you take your next big breath and dive deep into you, take a look at the action, at the words coming out of your mouth, at your body language, at the expression on your face. If you could zoom into that moment, what would your body language have been? What would the expression on your face have been? What words would have come out of your mouth? Take your next big breath. If we're unable to put down the judgment, if we're unable to look at every part of this, every part of ourselves with openness, if we can't put down the judgment, we get trapped in repeating the same thing from a small self, from the level of ego. The same mistake will happen again. But if we can put down the judgment, if we can look at all of this in an openness that accepts all of this, then in future it becomes easier to give the action to wisdom. Let wisdom decide the action. So let's rehearse that. Let's for the moment say, we're blessed to find ourselves in the same opportunity again to put this into practice. We find ourselves somewhere in the future in the same set of circumstances. The same things happen. You're standing in the same moment. Now, before you act, this time before you react, what is it that you'd like yourself to know? If you could place thoughts into the head of this human before he or she reacts, what thoughts would you want this version of you to have? Speak to you. Take your next big breath. If you had the opportunity to do this again, what would you want your body language to be? What would you want the expression on your face to be? And what words would you want to speak? If you're able to do this again, take your next big breath. We'll take the last few big breaths of this phase together, slipping out of the breath holding space and into the next. Take a deep breath in and hold. As you release, make it a really long, really slow exhale. Take a deep breath in and hold. As you release, feel how softness slips into your body and how softness settles in every cell of your body. One more big breath in and hold. And as you release, feel yourself slip all the way through. There is no more attention on your breathing. You can sit all the way back or even lie all the way back down and feel yourself just floating. I'll read to you one more time. Today's message from Jiddu Krishnamurti. It says, freedom from the desire for an answer. This is essential to the understanding of the problem. Can we just be open without being desperate for the answer? Because the moment we are desperate for the answer, we're already leaning in one direction or the other. He says, the highest form of human intelligence is to observe yourself without judgment. Can you just see, just observe, just be the witness without judging? And then he says basically the same thing. The ability to observe without evaluating, this is the highest form of intelligence. When we look at ourselves with judgment, even the worst parts of ourselves or the worst things we have ever done, if we have judgment when we look at ourselves, we are trapping ourselves in ego. Because the ego is unable to hold both. The ego is deeply invested in physical survival, and as such, the ego needs certainty, needs to know it's either black or white, or either right or wrong. Because if it doesn't have that certainty, then it feels like, how do I figure out how to survive unless I have a certain answer? Being able to put judgment down enables us to step outside of ego. When we can put judgment down, we literally see both sides, probably more than two sides. In other words, we're seeing literally from a higher dimension. Just think about the difference of seeing something in a two-dimensional reality and seeing something in a three-dimensional reality. In order to see more sides of the same thing, you need to be a little bit higher up, a little bit removed. When you're able to put judgment down, you're giving yourself access to your soul, to your wisdom. And so, of course, we can't always just observe and do nothing. Sometimes action is required. But when action is required, when a decision has to be made, who do you want to give that responsibility to? You want to give that responsibility to your ego that only sees one side? Perhaps the ego that only condemns you for the worst things you've ever done? Or do you want to give the responsibility to act to your wisdom, to your higher self? Do you understand that when you're able to put down judgment, then you become able to act from wisdom? And this is why Krishnamurti and many other teachers calls this the highest form of human intelligence. Seeing and acting through the eyes of your soul. We have the last 5 breaths of gratitude to do together. With every exhale, I'll say my thank you, and I invite you to say yours. Take a deep breath in. Thank you for learning how to be the observer. Take a deep breath in. Thank you for learning how to see myself without judgment. Take a deep breath in. Thank you for learning that I don't need judgment in order to push myself to do better. Wisdom already wants better for me. Take a deep breath in. Thank you for learning how to form a closer and closer relationship with wisdom, with my soul. One more big breath in. Thank you, beautiful people. Thank you for floating away on this journey with us. Thank you for doing your work to be able to see yourself without judgment. Beatrix, good morning. It's great seeing you. Hello. Cheryl, a very good morning. Thank you for joining us. I hope you had some time to sit down with us. Maggie, a very good morning. So good to see you. Hello. Thank you, Danae. Thank you, Sunmari. Thank you, Anthony. I think this is such a productive, practical exercise to do. Whenever you find your inner critic criticizing you for the way you've done anything, go through the exercise and practice how you would do it in future. Lots of love to you all. Have a beautiful day. Ciao, ciao.